Hello there. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to my podcast, Sacred Soul Sisters. My name is Justina. I am an Usui Holy Fire and Angel Reiki Master with over 20 years of practice, and I'm your host. I can't wait to let others feel the love of community and remind us of the importance of coming together instead of coming apart. Now let's take a deep breath together in through our nose and a long exhale out of our mouth. This is my intentions in a poem to set the tone for our sacred soul sister community. Here you go. Welcome, dear soul, to this sacred space where all are embraced with love and grace. From every land, from near and far, no matter who you are, you're a star. Feel the warmth, the light, the peace. Let your spirit find release. Here we gather, hearts aligned, to uplift, to heal, to realign. Breathe in deeply, feel your glow. Let your light expand and flow. As I pour into you with love so true, your cup overflows, your soul renews. Together we rise, in love we stand, lifting vibrations hand in hand. A mission of light, a journey divine. Thank you for sharing your soul with mine. Welcome to the Sacred Soul Sisters space, a home of love and sacred embrace. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another heart-expanding episode of the Sacred Soul Sisters podcast. I am your host, Justina, Reiki practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, light activator, and registered nurse. I am so grateful you are here with us in this sacred space where we explore healing, spirituality, and the power of love and energy to transform our lives. Today, I have the absolute honor of welcoming a true pioneer in mind-body medicine. I'm so excited. I'm sort of busting at the seams. Peggy Huddleston. Peggy's groundbreaking and grounding work and research have helped countless people around the world, not just the United States, around the world, prepare for surgery with peace, calm, and confidence through her program. Her book, Prepare for Surgery, Heal Faster, has her proven 5-step process beautifully integrating relaxation, visualization, and the support of community to speed healing and reduce pain, all through the power of the mind-body connection. Peggy is a psychotherapist, a researcher, a graduate of Harvard Divinity School. She has explored emotional and spiritual dimensions of physical healing. Her work reminds us that our bodies respond not only to medicine, but they respond to love, belief, and connection. And when we have all of those things, the healing frequency that creates is phenomenal. So there's so much beautiful information packed into this interview. This will be a 2-episode series. You will not want to miss the first or second episode for sure. So we will release this first episode and then follow for next week for a second part of this episode. Okay, if you know anyone that has had surgery, wants to have surgery, is planning to have surgery, doesn't want to have surgery, is having surgery, or is simply human, this is for you. So please, please share this with all of your loved ones. Peggy, welcome to the Sacred Soul Sisters podcast. It is
Thank you.
such an honor to share your
I'm,
light and
I'm so
wisdom.
glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So, Peggy, your work bridges the worlds of science, spirituality, and healing so perfectly. Can you share what first, like the very first part that inspired you to explore the mind body connection and develop your incredible book?
Well, I was living in Philadelphia where I grew up, and uh, I had a bunch of clients all in a 3-week period who were all facing surgery and were all highly anxious. And they all came to me saying, how can I reduce this anxiety? I feel like I want to jump out of my body. I'm so anxious. And so I guided them. Actually, I created a relaxation and guided them through it. And at the very end of it, had them imagining end results. Because as you know, when a person gets deeply relaxed, and they're hovering above sleep. They're in an altered state that's probably theta. And in that state, they have access to 95% of their unconscious mind. So when they put an end result or belief into their subconscious mind in that state, it just takes like an affirmation in a conscious state. You only have access to 5% of the subconscious mind. So as I showed these clients how to do this, and they had about 3 weeks before surgery, and I created a relaxation tape for them to use because it was back that far when we were using cassette tapes. And they'd come back from surgery and say, "Oh my gosh, my surgeon was amazed. He said I was so calm before surgery that I was less blood loss and that I used 50% less pain medication and I healed faster." I thought, "Oh, that's great." But then more and more patients kept coming back saying, "Same thing happened to me." And they said, "Can't you put this in a book so that I can tell my mother, send it to my sister?" So it took me actually 2 years writing every day. Uh,
Wow.
I would take my son to Montessori school in the morning, drop him off at 8:30, and then I come back and begin writing until 3:30 when I had to go pick him up. I had to learn to put on an alarm because I'd be so high in a state of bliss writing that I'd lose all sense of time. And so I had to, oops, I've got to go get Sam at school. And and after 2 years, the book was there. And my inner guidance said, publish it yourself. You know how your intuition talks to you. And my
Yes.
intuition said, don't sell it to a publisher because they can change things. They can make the type so small it's hard to read. Just publish it yourself. So I said, okay. So I published it myself. And then I've had so many angelic helpers that I named my publishing company Angel River Press. And,
Ah, my
and
business is Angel Reiki Journey.
oh my gosh, it's the same because we have helpers from the other side,
Yes, we do.
abundance of them. Like I had rivers of angels helping me. And when
Oh,
my book first came out, I wound up having an interview that was one on the NPR affiliated stations. And I did the interview and I sold 10,000 books in the next week. It was just phenomenal. The
wow.
connections that were happening. Then I was asked to be on Fox News nationwide the next time, and so it just the sales were huge of getting this out to people. So that's really how it all began, of just trusting my intuition. You know how you get intuition, but you can say, "Oh no, that's not right." Or you get into you
Yeah.
go, "That's I know that's my intuition. I'm going to follow it." So I followed my intuition every step of the way.
Wow, that's that's so true. I have been known to argue with my intuition. I'm not sure why I do it because my intuition usually wins, but eventually I'll stop arguing. I wanted to ask you, so your early days in this journey, as far as, when you went through your studying at Harvard Divinity School, how do you feel like what you learned there helped to shape your understanding of healing from a spiritual perspective and how it was all connected?
Well, when I went to Harvard, I said I was doing a 2-year program, a Master's of Theological Studies, and
Mhm.
they let me design my own course of study. I said I wanted to study what people can do emotionally and spiritually that speeds their physical healing. And
Mhm.
I worked with people who had just been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I would show them how to put it in remission. And the first woman I showed was a minister at a congregational church there, and she's been in remission for over 30 years.
Wow.
But this is how I do it. Uh, they would have just, say, been to the neurologist who had told them the depressing story of what's going
Mhm.
to happen, and this is how many years you're going to be in a wheelchair. So the neurologist really sets them up with a terrible story.
Right.
So, and if I could get the person soon after that awful story and change the story, but I could change it by that lie down on a couch in my office and I'd say, could I guide you through a deep relaxation? Because before I'd say, well, what are your symptoms? And they'd say, well, I have such fatigue. My eyesight is blurry. When I walk, I'm dragging one leg. I said, well, could I show you how in about 25 minutes how to reverse that? And they said, I'll do anything, of course. So I'd had them lie down on the couch and I'd guide them through the relaxation that's on my relaxation MP3. It doesn't mention surgery, so it can be used for any kind of healing. And they get deeply relaxed. And then at the end of it, when I count them out, I'd say, well, how do you feel now? And they'd say, just kind of blink their eyes and say, well, oh, my eyesight's all right. It's not blurry anymore. I said, good. How's your walking? And I said, why don't you just stand up and walk around my office? And they'd walk around. They said, oh my God, my leg is normal. And how's your fatigue? Well, I feel like I have energy. I said, great. So would you be open to listening to my relaxation twice a day? And we'll come up with their three end results of their healing imagery. And they said, sure. And so this woman learned to put her MS into remission and
Wow.
then maintain her remission. If she got an exacerbation, which means her symptoms came back, she'd go, oh, I'm doing too much. I'm too stressed out. I have to listen to the relaxation. In about a day or two, she could get back into remission. So that's what I learned when I was at Harvard Divinity School, uh, because they let me focus on that area, and I could take courses in Harvard Yard in immunology. It was the days of psychoneuroimmunology. So I had access to all the different Harvard schools, and so I could learn immunology and psychoneuroimmunology. So it gave me a huge playground of learning. So that's what really got me going.
That is so exciting. I've been talking to people recently with, I've been a nurse for 20 plus years and trying to figure out all of these different avenues that we can take in the medical field. You know, uh, and everything that you speak of is so amazing because I think sometimes we start to freak out. I know we do in the Midwest when fall starts to come and we're like, oh, the flu, and now, oh, COVID, and oh, this, and all of it's coming. I'm just going to get lots of tissues and just make sure I have some chicken noodle soup in the cabinet because I know I'm going to get it and it's this and that. And I'm really feeling into different situations of kind of asking people, hey, how about we just try something different? What if we just try at least once a day, spending a little bit of time focusing, right, on us having a beautiful fall and we feel great and we still have plenty of energy and all these things. So, what you're saying is just making my soul explode. I'm so excited. Thank you, Peggy. You teach that positive emotions and the human spirit can literally speed physical healing. Can you share a bit about the science behind it, like and how the emotions can influence our biochemistry? If we were thinking negative thoughts, if that patient would have continued to focus on what the neurologist was saying, um, how would that have looked differently versus what you walked them through?
Well,
Sorry.
ever know the work of Jane Roberts and the Seth material?
This is the third time that's been brought up to me, so guess I'm gonna look into it.
Well, um, it's all about on planet Earth. We're here and we're meant to be creators, not just put up with what happens to us, but we're meant to consciously create a reality. And I remember when my son, Sam, was about 5 years old, he's I took him to the toy store. We had a toy store in Cambridge called Toys R Us. And I said, Sam, you can get three toys. They're each $1.99. And he sort of looked at me really puzzled, like my mom doesn't understand. And I said, well, Sam, what are you thinking? He said, Mom, where I came from, because he remembered where he came from before he came to Earth. And and he said, Mom, where I've come from, if I want an apple, I just hold out my hand and think apple. And an apple in about half a minute, an apple appears. And and when I we take something where I came from, we would take something off the shelf, another one appears right behind it. So he came from a dimension of abundance and he remembered it.
Wow.
And so I, so after I had read the Seth material, I read all of those books, and even went and spent a couple days with Jane Roberts, who wrote them, and her husband Robbie, and uh, and met them. And so we're really, part of this is creating your own reality. But a person is doing that by getting deeply relaxed. So they put the belief into their subconscious mind. So literally it creates. If you do it as an affirmation at a conscious level, you only get access to about 5% of your subconscious mind. When you're deeply relaxed, like say just before falling asleep, you now have access to a theta state, which gives you access to 95% of your subconscious mind. So scientifically, you could prove this if you had someone wired up and was measuring their brainwave activity and have them then, and that's what hypnosis is based on. They're, no, the therapist gets a person deeply into an altered state where they now have access to their subconscious mind to say if someone wants to stop smoking cigarettes, and it's a habit, then they can say at that deep level, following this, I'll count from 1 to 5, and the count of 5, you'll hate cigarettes. And sure enough, they'll come out saying, I don't want a cigarette. So it's all about what is well known with the power of altered states of consciousness through years of hypnosis.
And it can actually change things on a cellular level, right?
It's things
So,
on the cellular, yes, and I don't know how it does that, and I don't know the science about that, but I've seen it do it. I mean, do you want me to tell you another example?
sure, sure.
Well, there's a woman who was living in Massachusetts, and she had been in Vermont skiing, and she broke her leg, her tibia, skiing.
Oh,
And they took her to the hospital in Boston, put hardware in it. And a year later, when they x-rayed, they found so little bone had regenerated. They said, we're going to have to uh, graft bone from your hip to your tibia. And
oh
she
man.
was using my book, and it was about 3 weeks before surgery. So she had the x-ray to document the need of the bone graft. And
Uh-huh.
so I guided her through the process in my book of where you talk to a part of your body. I got her deeply relaxed and said, talk to your tibia and ask it, what comforting emotion does it want you to give it? And she said, my tibia says it wants love. How do I do that? I said, well, just put your hands on either side of your knee and imagine you were uh, just soothing a baby. You know how you gently would just stroke a baby and
Mm-hmm.
just feel the love flowing into the baby, and move your hands from your knees all the way down your leg to your tibia, that bone in the calf, and then just let your hands stay there for about 5 minutes, giving it love. She said, okay, I can do that. Well, as she began to do it, I could see, but I didn't say it, I could see pink, puffy clouds of love coming out of her hands. But I never tell people I can see this. I just use it to ask better questions. So I said, how do you feel? She said, well, I see pink, puffy clouds of love coming out of my
Oh
hand.
my gosh.
I said, oh, good. I didn't say, well, I see them too. I said, oh, good. And I said, so then slide them all the way down to where the bone needs healing, and just let the love focus there, and ask this part of your body, how long does it want to be given the healing? And it said, well, 5 minutes, 3 times a day, after when you wake up in the morning, after lunch, and when you go to bed. So she began doing that 3 times a day, and she had 3 weeks before surgery. When she got to the Harvard Teaching Hospital and the two orthopedic surgeons opened up her leg in the operating room, they said, there's so much new bone growth here from the x-ray 3 weeks ago, we don't need to do surgery.
Wow. That's incredible. And so she had both before imaging and after imaging that could prove that a change had taken place.
Exactly, because luckily the x-ray had been 3 weeks earlier when they said, you need to do surgery. This bone has not healed in 1 year. And just 3 weeks of doing this created so much actual bone growth that they could see in the x-ray. They said, we don't need to do the surgery.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it exciting? Yes,
Oh my
it is
God.
amazing.
We have this capability. you know, I feel like it always comes back to love, right? Like, all we need is I'm gonna start going into song with the Beatles here, but
Yes,
like,
like the Beatles.
yeah, I mean, like, all we need is love. I feel like we need to just say it over and over to ourselves and everybody else, and we still seem to struggle with that concept because I think so often we get in this thought process of we have to everything takes super, super hard work, right? And when you talk about this relaxation, like that you walk them through in your office and the relaxation MP3 that you have, you're not talking about like you need to do 2.5 hours of this relaxation tape in the morning. You need to do 2.5 hours in the afternoon, 2.5 hours before bed, right? Like this isn't some extensive work they have to do, correct? Am I right about
That's
that?
right. Yes.
What is the time frame that you talk about? What's the length of the relaxation?
25 minutes.
And that's incredible. We can do anything for 25 minutes. Anything. So, I mean, we really don't have to beat our heads against the wall to get things done sometimes. We can do it with love. So, in your book, you talk about 5 steps that prepare for surgery, and they're so empowering. Can you briefly kind of walk us through these steps and kind of what led you to these steps? Did you kind of like trial a couple different things or were you just like, nope, this is exactly what you have to do and you're good to go? Um and these steps they can use them not just before surgery, but you can really use them in all different aspects of your life. Is that correct?
You can use them. Well, I'll go through the 5 steps so they
Okay.
make sense to your listeners. The first step is listening to the relaxation to reduce anxiety. And by reducing anxiety, they shift into a deep state of peace. And then the autonomic nervous system, the two branches, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, come into homeostasis. And so it's learning to shift out of anxiety into peacefulness and learn to live in that peace, not just for 25 minutes, but learn that they can live there. It's a choice. And so it's using the relaxation, and I have it on my website as an MP3. It's just $15.95, anyone can download. And it never mentions surgery. So if a person has any kind of stress, they can use it for that because most illnesses are stress related. They're initiated by long-term periods of stress that then throw the immune system out of balance because it becomes suppressed, and then different diseases occur. So the first step is relaxation. The second step is visualizing, I ask them to write down what are the three biggest worries and to turn each one into a positive end result. It's always about the surgery. So I asked them to visualize the surgery going well so that after surgery, they're saying to a family member, how do you feel? And they say, I feel comfortable. And then imagining then the recovery at home and they're saying, I'm doing so well. And then third, that it's further out in time being fully recovered. So it's a power of visualization, which really goes back to create your own reality. The third step is the one I love the most. It's surrounding yourself with the love of your family and friends. It's asking friends, sending them an email about a week before saying, can you wrap me in a blanket of love and you pick a color that feels nurturing? And can you wrap me in that blanket of love for the half hour before surgery? And then add, I won't know till the day before what time my surgery begins, but I'll let you know by email. And so when they get 10 friends, or maybe they have a church group and it's a whole prayer group, or if they have a large family, they get all their aunts and uncles and cousins to wrap them in love. The person will feel, or even they just have, 4 friends to do it, they will feel this bubble of love surrounding them and this peace before surgery. And even if surgery is delayed, because that can happen, this
Sure.
bubble, this bubble of peace just stays with them for a couple of hours. So it puts them into a deep state of relaxation. So they need less anesthesia to go into become unconscious.
Wow. Hello. I just wanted to drop in real quick And I wanted to reach out this invitation. If you and your friends feel called to gather for a spiritual retreat, say there is a venue near you, say there's one of your friends' homes that you'd like to host it in. Currently, only in the United States, I am doing this, but my goal is definitely to be able to broaden my horizons in the near future. But if you and your friends feel called to gather for a spiritual retreat somewhere local to you and one that nurtures healing, love, peace, rejuvenation, I would be honored to hold space and guide you through that journey. Retreats are seriously one of my greatest joys to lead, to teach, to share, to create community together, to love on people, to remind them how worthy and amazing they are. I I just absolutely love them. And also, if you know of a venue or a sacred space with beautiful healing energy that you'd love to suggest for some of my retreats in the future, I would love to hear from you. So please reach out, let me know, or if you would like more information or to connect, please reach out to me at email Justina, Justina, at angelreikijourney.com. So Justina, Justina, at ANGELREIKIJOURNEY.com. I can't wait to hear from you. I love you guys. Have a great day.
There's 4 and 5. 4
Okay,
is, there's in the book, there's a page of healing statements that they print out from the book and ask the anesthesiologist, or say, can you ask the circulating nurse to say these to me? And the person just scotch tapes them to their hospital gown, so when they're rolled into the OR, they're visible, and to know it's their legal right to ask to have these statements said. So it's a legal patient request that the doctors have to comply with, whether they believe in it or not. Now, some wonderful doctors, often breast surgeons, they love to say the healing statements themselves.
Mhm.
Others will have the anesthesiologist will say, oh, I love to say these, like at Mass General Hospital in Boston. The anesthesia team say, oh, we do this all the time. This is Huddleston's program, would love to say the healing statements, and it brings
Oh,
women.
wow.
The other Harvard teaching hospital for 15 years have sent a brochure, 15 years have sent a brochure about my program to every patient having surgery, because they had me train 20 nurses who all worked in the OR in my program. And they offer patients a free 1-hour prepare for surgery heal faster workshop by phone or Zoom. So there are many hospitals that are using this with their patient, like it. The one that's used it the longest in New York City is NYU Langone. It's part of NYU Medical Center.
Mhm.
They have a fantastic team of integrative healing. And I've trained 40 nurses there in my program, and they offer my program by phone or at the bedside to anyone preparing for surgery. And they've used this for probably, at least 15 years. They have a grant from a marvelous woman who would use it herself. Her name is Helene Lerner. And she was preparing to have a simple a surgery that was scaring her, because they didn't know what they're going to find. They're looking, is this cancerous or not?
Oh,
And
mhm.
a good friend of mine in New York City had edited my book. And Helene and her husband Sid came over for dinner, and Helene said, oh, I'm having this surgery on my lung and I'm really anxious. So Emily gave Helene a copy of my book and relaxation and said, well, try this. And she got so peaceful before surgery, and she had her friends wrap her in a blanket of love. She said, I was the only relaxed patient in the holding area. Everyone else was curled up in a fetal position with fear. And she said it made such a difference that I want to fund that. She is very generous, and she gives a grant every year to NYU Langone to support this program in integrative therapies. And she's just been amazing, because she found how much it helped her go from raw fear to feeling peaceful and calm before surgery. And she said, this is something that can be offered patients. It only takes a 1-hour workshop, and having the relaxation to listen to. So I'm very grateful to Helene because she got this going at NYU Langone. But then there's a fabulous integrative, she's how do you say it? She's a cardiac anesthesiologist who was at Johns Hopkins for years. And she took my training when I, at US University of Maryland Medical Center, had me come to Baltimore and train about 40 people in my program. And she came over from Hopkins as was one of them. So she began offering it to patients at Hopkins for free. And she's recently moved to Seattle with her husband to be near her parents, who are
Mm-hmm.
now elderly. And she's now getting the program going at the University of Seattle in Washington. Or was it the University of Washington in Seattle? I think I mixed it up. Dr. Rosie Scheinberg. So she's seen how patients using for any surgery, she's a cardiac anesthesiologist, but she just is marvelous offering this program and getting it going there. So it's offered at many hospitals around the country at NYU, at University of Maryland Medical Center. When I did that training, the doctor who was in charge of the bone marrow transplants, and that's a very serious surgery,
Yeah.
he said, could you adapt this for my nurses to give this workshop to patients preparing for bone marrow transplant? And I said, sure. And I saw, so he asked me to come to Baltimore and train his 12 nurses and himself.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 2-day training I give people online on Zoom, and I give it every few months. So a lot of nurses take it, a lot of Reiki masters, like massage therapists.
I'll be
And
taking that course.
oh,
Yeah,
good. Well, I'm
I need
giving
to
one
figure out. Yeah.
November 5th. Let's see, November 15th and 16th is my next one. Um, and I always have people from all over the country taking it. It's very exciting. So Dr. Scheinberg took the program and get it going at Hopkins, is now getting it going at the University of Washington in Seattle. So it's being offered at many different hospitals around the country.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And that's my absolute dream. I have, done all kinds of range of nursing. I did hospice nursing for a while, and I would have patients sometimes that, there's a certain part in the dying process where you don't necessarily absorb medications the same way. Your body doesn't break it down, and you don't always get pain relief, but they could get pain relief when I would give them Reiki,
Mm,
and I have a lady that was 68 pounds, I believe, that I would simply go to her house and, well, at that time I didn't necessarily say I was doing Reiki. But it is like intense prayer. It is like focusing on love. It is like pouring
yes,
love into someone, right? And when you create a sacred, safe space for somebody, I literally sat in her rocker recliner and I would just hold her and rock her, and she would be able to go to sleep right in my arms, and she had relief. Her face stopped, tightening up, her body stopped tightening up. And it's amazing the power of love and intention and everything that goes into all of this. And my dream
yes,
is to make this happen in more hospitals in the Midwest and bring this, and not have people, some people get nervous or they get scared, like, what is this, and all these kinds of things. But I'm so glad that you have this program, and I can't wait to learn more from you to be able
great.
to institute this more in my area.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it'd be easy to get it going in your hospital because you just talk to the chief nursing officer and
Okay.
explain how this allows, as patients use it, that they become deeply relaxed before surgery so they require less anesthesia. They
Mhm.
use 50% less pain medication. And I have a bunch of research studies on my website. A person just
I
clicks about the
definitely should
book and
pull
then clicks research. And so it shows how pain meds are reduced by half and length of stay. Because, hospitals
which
now,
is a huge thing.
because insurance really runs length of stay these days. And it
Mhm.
reduces, a person heals faster if they say leave the hospital in much better shape.
Absolutely, which then they end up having a better outcome in the long run as well, for sure.
Exactly. Yes.
I wanna bring us back real quick to just verify step 4 and step 5, what those are
4
called
is
again.
the use of the healing statements. They're
Okay, the
said
healing statements. Mhm.
as they as the patient goes under the anesthesia, someone in the OR says, it could be the anesthesiologist or the circulating nurse, following this operation, you will feel comfortable and heal very well. So the person's going to ever deeper altered states of consciousness where this goes right into their subconscious mind. And then towards the end of surgery, they say, following this operation, you will be thirsty for, say, chicken soup, because we've found
I
that
love
that
that.
gets at Brigham and Women's, the Harvard Teaching Hospital has been using my program for 15 years. They find
Hmm.
that patients leave the PACU, the recovery room, 2 hours sooner than patients not using my program. Because when you say you'll be thirsty for chicken soup, they wake up saying, where's my chicken soup? I want my chicken soup. And
Right.
that gets their bladder and bowel function going. And of course,
Love
they
that.
won't let you leave the recovery room until you've got bladder and bowel function going.
Yes.
So that's what works there. And then the fifth is just talking to the anesthesiologist at the preoperative meeting, which is usually by phone these days, a few days before surgery, and just say, I have some healing statements. You can email them to the doctor saying, anesthesiologist, I'd like to have these said. And so that's statement number 5, just making that request, knowing it's your right as a patient to request them.
If for some reason, which this definitely does happen, people don't have the opportunity to have scheduled surgeries, it's an emergency surgery, or the anesthesiologist isn't able to get in touch with them until right before surgery as well. Do you feel like they could still use like the affirmations? They could still
Oh,
use the
absolutely.
healing? Okay.
Yeah, because they just can take the page and into the OR and say, I want these said to me, knowing it's their right as a patient to make this request.
And after surgery, they could still listen to the relaxation tapes,
Oh,
right?
it
They could
definitely
still.
speeds healing. In fact, um, there was a study done at Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital, Harvard Teaching Hospital. It was done by the chief of medicine, Dr. Russell Phillips. He was the doctor who was a neighbor of the woman who uh, tibia healed so quickly she didn't need surgery. So
Are
he
you
witnessed this healing and he said, this is amazing. I want to do a, he said, Peggy, could you come over here to Boston and do a study with several of my doctors, showing them how to use your method so we can use this with not just surgical patients, but hospitalized patients. So we did that study, and I can send, it's on my website. It showed
Mhm.
that patients who listened to my relaxation for 25 minutes for just twice a day for 2 days had a reduction in use of medication for anxiety and had a significant reduction in heart rate. And, and so it's probably because relaxation affects the vagal nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, that is attached to every organ in the body.
Yes.
And so it's probably, so he found that it significantly helped patients who were hospitalized. So they also use this not just before surgery, but for any situation where a person's in the hospital and worried to shift out of, it's all about shifting out of fear and living in peace and love.
Yes, I think so often about patients with, fibromyalgia, things that they feel like they can't quite put their finger on, where it came from initially, exactly how they're going to treat it, all of that kind of thing. When we truly give our body what it needs, it's a masterpiece.
Yes. And you know that as a Reiki master because you've seen it
Oh,
over and over.
yes, I have. It's incredible. Like I have goosebumps everywhere, and my crown is tingling. Uh, but it's just so beautiful to witness. And I tell story after story of, giving Reiki sessions for people and people just simply being able to relax fully, fully, fully in a sacred space for a little bit of time can have an amazing impact, right? Mm.
Exactly.
Oh, it's just so exciting. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like contain myself here. Um, So I love the blanket of love that you encourage people to visualize with family and friends. How important do you feel like community is
whenever we have any type of situation going on, any type of illness, any type of facing surgery, any type of terminal diagnoses, all these kinds of things. In my podcast, I talk a lot about community and how important it is. And I just wanted to get your take on that. Uh, I feel like people struggle more medically when they are alone in everything they do.
Oh, absolutely. That community of is so important. And that's why sometimes uh, churches will send someone who's, say, a nurse to take my training online, and then they'll organize their prayer group to wrap a person in a blanket of love for the half hour before surgery, because they have that built-in prayer group and they've seen how much it helps. The most beautiful example I've heard of this, Justina, is I had an email a few months ago from a woman who I never knew, but she said, I want to thank you. My brother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And we have many, many brothers and sisters in our family. So after reading your book about the blanket of love, I organized them all so that twice a day for about 15 minutes, we wrapped him in love. And I don't know how many months it took, but he said he's in remission. I know, no, because it couldn't even be treated with chemotherapy at that point. And he said, so it was the love. It gives me goosebumps to talk about it.
Yes,
I'm
me too.
trying to find her name to verify, well, how many months did you do it and how many times?
Right,
Twice
right.
a day. But she said it was using the blanket of love that did it. There was one family whose daughter was around 5 years old, was going to have some heart surgery. And there's a chapter on how to use this to prepare children for surgery. And so when the mother read about the blanket of love, she got about 10 of her friends to come over on a Sunday afternoon and had her daughter sit on a little chair. And the daughter had said she wanted a pink blanket of love. So she had a pink blanket. And then the 10 friends sat around her in a circle and surrounded her in love and said,
Oh,
this is how, and she went, oh, how do you feel? She said, oh, mommy, I feel so loved and cozy. I said, well, this is how you're going to feel while you're waiting for surgery, because we'll all be thinking of you. And there is no distance at that level. We're all part of a oneness. This is how you said, oh, mommy, I can't wait to have this surgery because this is how I'm going to feel. She said, we're going to
ah,
send it to you after surgery too. So it's beautiful using this with children.
I love that. I love that. That was actually going to be my next question about children. So if you have a child going through this, or someone that has a child that has to have surgery, you can also be the person walking them through, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if it's say if it's a child up until about age 12, then you want
Hmm.
the parents to be coming up with the end results and listening to the relaxation. But if, say, the child's a teenager having wisdom teeth taken out, then you'll have
Hmm.
the child use the 5 steps to prepare for surgery, getting relaxed every day with the relaxation MP3, listening to it just before the dentist begins to extract the wisdom teeth.
So, one more thing that just came to mind. I have people often, um, and one of the religions I was brought up in, there a lot of times there would be sort of this feeling of like, well, I don't want to ask for too much. I don't want to, my problem's not too big. My surgeries, it's just a minor surgery. A lot of people have had this surgery, so I want to wait. I want people only that are having like every arm and every leg cut off at one time to ask to do this, or that's just for them. I think it's really important, just like you said about wisdom teeth, whether it's one wisdom tooth or all wisdom teeth, whether it's one toenail you're having cut out, there's no limitation on what you can do this for, right?
Exactly, can be used for anything.
And it's okay. You're not asking too much. There's plenty of love.
Oh, there's an abundance of love. And
Yeah.
actually, we're a soul living in a body. And as a soul, we are peace and love. That's our our essence. That's who we are. Most
Yeah.
people think they're a body, but we're just a soul living in a body. Not just, but we are.
And we don't run out of love.
No, because our
We can
soul is always attached to the divine and is
absolutely.
always showering us with love.
Whew, my heart is just warming like crazy. So I am super excited about this. So I had heard of you a while back at a couple different times, and then we have a million things coming at us at one time, and I always wanted to read more or find out more. And I have a beautiful friend, Carolyn, and her husband Darcy. Carolyn had talked to me about your incredible book. And when she talked to me, I could feel the love pouring out of her heart into mine as she spoke of you and as she spoke of the things in your book. So I am so excited they are here today,
Oh,
and they are going to be with us for a little while. We're going to ask some questions about what their process was and that kind of stuff. Uh, and so if I can invite them on, Carolyn and Darcy.
good.
Hold on. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
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 Hello.
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet
They
you too. Honored to meet you.
they are joining us from California, which is beautiful. And well, that's a whole nother subject. I could talk for 20 years about that. But anyway, I'm so excited you guys are here. So Carolyn is a beautiful friend of mine, and I also had the honor of meeting Darcy. Um, and I am just blown away at, for one, Carolyn's love for her husband.
Mm.
I Carolyn has taught me about love and the love of a spouse by who she is and how devoted she is to her husband. And in doing that, she went back into finding your book and she fully delved into it. And I would like to, Carolyn, um, invite you to kind of tell us just a little bit about, like, how you heard of her, how you came about the book, and what made you want to get back in touch with the book.
Yeah, so I listened to a podcast, Peggy, and I heard you speak, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. And I just put it in the back of my mind. It was a great podcast, and I just kept on thinking about you. And then I think a year later, my husband ended up having to have surgery. And I was like, oh my God, what was that? I didn't know what number the podcast was, or it took me a while to find your podcast again, your information. And and I love that I had always had it in the back of my mind. I don't know. I think that's always interesting. And then he had two surgeries. So the first surgery, I finally found the podcast and wasn't even able to get your book. I think I Googled what are the healing statements to say right before surgery because he was going in, I think, 2 days before. So we had the doctor say the healing statements that I found online, I think. I no, on your website, I think.
Oh,
So
good.
yes. And then he ended up having to have another surgery and we had more time to prepare. So I bought your book and he read it, I read it. We got your meditation and we did it together every day for times a day for 2 to 3 weeks because we luckily had time before the surgery and did your meditation
Carolyn,
twice a day. Yeah.
can I, when you first read the book, and Darcy, you too, like, how did you guys feel about the mind body techniques? Was there any, like, oh, I don't know, this is a little too woo woo or a little too crazy? Were there any?
I, yeah. Yeah, I full on woo woo. I believe it all. I so believe that we have the power to heal ourselves. And I've been talking about this for probably 2 years. I had this spiritual awakening about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so I believe in it all. And then my husband has been more skeptical about it, right?
Yeah.
But at the point when if you've are in surgery and you can do something as simple as meditate and have someone say healing statements and send love to someone, of course he was open to it, very open to it actually.
Yeah.
And so I think now I mean, he's fully in on all of this now. So I believe it in my heart. I just know, Peggy, when I heard you speak, it just made sense. I just knew it was possible. So we did two meditations, morning and night. And then I text my family and friends the day before you say to wrap, the person in love and a blanket of love and just send them love and think of positive things. So I had a group that told him when he was going in surgery to do that. And then I spoke to the anesthesiologist, the doctors, the nurses. I brought a few copies of the healing statements and I gave each one to all the people involved that were going to be in the OR. And I also taped it on his gown, like you said in your book. And most of them took a picture of it on their phone and have it on their phone now. So, but that I also thought by telling everyone, the doctor, the anesthesiologist, all the nurses, then it's not as awkward in the operating room when they're going to say it. When someone's like, "Oh, I got to say if someone is not as much of a believer."
Mhm.
But I do feel
Right.
like everybody was very open to it, and so they said the healing statements going under and then coming out, and the doctor midway through the surgery saying everything's going perfectly. I mean, he said it was textbook surgery, textbook perfect surgery. I mean, it went perfectly. And he was in the hospital only one day. And I feel like you healed, and we don't know what to compare it to, but he had no issues. He healed really quickly. I mean, I feel like it was a pretty intensive surgery. So, yeah, everything went well. And I mean, it all went well. It really did. Yes.
It
Great.
is absolutely incredible um, that you guys were able to walk through all of this, and you had people, working with you, the nurses and anesthesia. Um, and I wanted to ask about how you guys felt about it initially, because there's a lot of people I run into that are kind of like apprehensive about it, or a little, oh, I don't know, these people are crazy. And I wanted them that are listening to know that, what, even if you do start out feeling that way, what does it hurt?
Yes.
Because here we have a situation where we had incredible results, right? And what practices from the 5 steps do you feel like helped you feel peace before the surgery? Was there one specific step that seemed like it gave you more peace than another?
I mean, I just think the practice of the meditations that Peggy led us through twice a day were very powerful, and I still listened to one the other day, just 2 days ago, when I was just kind of meditating by myself, right, to get into a calm and relaxed place, and that's what Peggy's talk track is all about in my mind.
And by the way, he didn't really meditate beforehand, Peggy. So
Oh,
this has been a big
good.
change,
Yeah,
which is great.
yeah. So that was really um, the book. The book was calming and helpful for me because it was like you can approach this in a different way. It reduced stress. It brought in a positive light, right? So it was for me, it was guiding and helped me come to terms with the illness and then the surgery I was about to go through.
Wonderful.
Wow. Were you guys able to do the visualization part? And if so, like what did you try to visualize as far as, the surgery and after the surgery kind of thing?
I mean, when we did it together, I would visualize him. He loves the water. He's always sailing, windsurfing. Now he's doing wing foiling. So I would visualize
So cool, by the
him
way.
on the water, just happy, sailing, and healthy. That's what I would visualize.
The
Yeah.
visualization, like Peggy brings you through it in the talk track, right? So basically, uh, Peggy, you talk about like getting the cassette tape, which just cracks me up because my kids don't know it. don't even know what a cassette tape is, but
Right. You're right.
you know, flip the tape over if you want to hear the other side. And I'm like, I'm not pretty sure nobody knows what that is. But
I do.
either way, when we listen to it, and we listen to it digitally, you would talk through that aspect of visualization, and that, again, another aspect of helping, like, not focus on the surgery, but focus on your healing process and where you're going to be afterwards on the water.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Peggy, by the way, Darcy is like way cool. Like, oh my gosh, this like wing foiling thing, and like, oh, he can do stuff with the boat, and he just acts like he's just, like, I don't know, walks on water or something. It's way weird. I was holding on for dear life. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, um he's very cool, and it's so amazing, all of this stuff that he was able to visualize, him just going back to being able to do. He also does that cold plunge thing, that crazy
Oh,
stuff, like
the
getting in
Wim
cold
Hof.
water. Insane. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, one of Peggy's steps involves creating a blanket of love. And do you feel like whenever you would go into that step, either one of you or both of you together, that you could close your eyes and really kind of get an idea of what that looks like in your head and what that feels like? Could you feel like kind of cradling into that love?
Yes, absolutely. I would just really visualize a pink blanket and just like feel the love I have for him. I mean, even the whole 2 to 3 hours of surgery he was going in, I actually meditated and sent him love and put the blanket of love and pink love for probably an hour to two. Yeah, for the whole time, because I didn't know what else to do. So I'm like, I'm just going to meditate and really just visualize him wrapped in love and sending him love. Yeah. So I could just feel it in my heart. I could feel it in my heart. Yeah.
Mm.
Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah.
Darcy, there was a lot of love coming at you.
Yeah.
She was
I mean,
calling in everyone.
Yeah,
She-
she helped. She's my
right.
spouse.
Justina was on that list.
I called her my healing coach for a while, right? Because she was so dedicated to making sure that I was holding
yes.
to Peggy's regimen, and that in visualizing the path to health, and that really helped me kind of walk through it. So not only did I have Peggy's cassette tape, but I also had my wife right in my ear, and that was wonderful.
Oh, I love that so much. It's incredible. Okay, so you guys don't go anywhere, but we are wrapping up this first episode here. This is the two-part series, which we talked about at the beginning. You're going to have to tune into next week for part 2 because it's so good. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please remember how very loved, how very supported each and every one of you are, and how deeply grateful I am for you taking the time to spend this time with us to learn even more about love and community and coming together and how we can heal ourselves, not only on a mental, emotional, heartfelt, spiritual level, but on a physical level. So thank you so much and have a great day.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick second and say thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And I want to take a minute and ask for a quick favor. If when you're listening to an episode, if you could please just take a second, place your hand on your heart and take a deep breath in through your nose and a long exhale out of your mouth, and just set the intention to send love and light to every single person listening right now, yesterday, and in the future. I think together we just might be able to raise the vibration of this world. I'm so excited. And please follow me on Instagram at Angel Reiki Journey. Visit my website to book an appointment with me at angelreikijourney.com. And please follow this podcast, Sacred Soul Sisters. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Have a great day.